Welcome to another Dark South Limited production. We are a private LLC that manages amateur and professional private musicians, artists, models, influencers, etc. My name is Mark Anthony Dark 66, and we are here in the next modeling movie installment. Everything about modeling, right in your face, literally. And we are having fun talking about everything in the arts connected to modeling, whether you do this on an amateur level or a professional level. Alright, let's get into this. So, the title of this movie is An Introverted Gothic Child Becomes Extroverted Mainstream Media. Okay, so this introverted Gothic child that we're talking about is me. Now, when I started this modeling movie series and I decided I was going to walk away from music for a while, I did touch upon this a little bit, but I don't think it was enough to get you to learn from what I was saying. Okay, first of all, there's a few different things that I have to clarify before I get into this. Number one is when I use the term Gothic, I'm actually talking about what's going on the inside, not necessarily what you see on the outside. And when I talk about being Gothic, I do say that I'm part Gothic, meaning that I'm not all the way there. I don't, drown myself in black every day. I like black, but I like other colors. I would say like my favorite color is probably red and black, that combination, and then like some different shades of a light blue. So yeah, like the Gothic is an internal thing, and I'm going to explain that right here, right now. So, first of all, when I was a child, my parents divorced at a very young age. So, the next thing I realized was I inherited brothers and sisters, and I was the baby in the family. So, I was still somewhat the center of attention, but I didn't have my mom's full attention like I wanted it when I was an only child, which always happens in divorce, and really it always ends up working out in the end, but when you're that age, it's very traumatic for the child. Divorce is hard, again, and I don't hold that against anybody. That's a whole separate topic. Okay, so let's not miss light here of what we are covering. Okay, so I had a big brother. I actually had two big brothers, but I was closer to the one big brother, and I'm still close to him today. We're not as close as we were when we were kids, but I'm not going to air out, this is not like the air out channel. This is just for learning purposes. Put it this way, when we were youngsters, I stuck to my big brother like glue. like he was the world to me. He still is the world to me, just in a different way. But of course, like, you know, I would get my brother's hand-me-downs, and I just realized this. I just realized this the other day. Like, it just hit me that I always had two wardrobes. I had my clothes that I would keep at my dad's house and the clothes that I would keep at my mom's house. So I was always used to having like more clothes than necessary. And then like I had my clothes that my mom wanted me to wear, and then like I had my hand-me-downs from my big brother, so like I always had so many clothes. Like I just it really like hit me, and I was like wow, I didn't, I didn't realize that. Um my big brother was the first one to buy me my first real diamonds. Don't think I forgot about that, man. I love you for that. I had a diamond encrusted crucifix. Um, so yeah, like my big brother always had like a great fashion sense. I remember like going to the mall with him when I was young, and like, like wearing his clothes and like looking up to him. He still dresses very nicely. Um, so let's segue from that. I just want you to get a picture of like the clothes I'm wearing as like, like from age, I don't know, 5 to maybe like, 18 or 19 years old. First of all, this generation does not know, and you guys should really know this. My group of friends that I grew up with, from being a toddler to 18 years old, we were outside every single day of the year. I mean, if I was ever inside my house not doing anything, it was a very, very, very rare occasion, okay, for that to happen. So just picture that. Now, with the Gothic being on the inside, I'm going to get back to that. But, like, on the weekends, like, me and my friends, we lived for the weekend. I mean, we would just be out in the woods, in the streets, wherever you could be out. Like, we were there. Like, my whole childhood, I was outside. And I was outside in the dark a lot. And I was comfortable with that. And I was always comfortable with that. It was normal. It was something that, because, like, we didn't really, when I was, like, a teenager, again, I'm not going to, like, talk about my age and broadcast that, but when I was a teenager, like, we didn't have, I don't even think YouTube was around then. We had, like, all this other stuff. Like, we still had apps and stuff, but it was not even close to being as far advanced as it is now, you know? So, I was always outside in the dark. Now, this is where I became Gothic. Okay. I remember I was very young. I was in the 6th grade. And I was on a school trip with my brother, who you know. And we had to come back from the school trip because my uncle had just died. And my uncle died very young, by the way. My uncle was a very free spirited man, and he was very. I was very close to him in a he was definitely a father figure while he was alive to me. And The interesting thing about my uncle is when he died, like, I'm not trying to make this into like a religious thing, I'm just telling you how it happened. When he died, you're like a kid, like running around. You don't really think of like life and death until, something happens within your family, or you don't know how to like process it correctly. And really there's nothing really wrong with that, with children to a certain extent, but I felt in my faith, just let me get this out of the way. I'm Christian. Okay, so I believe in life after death. Okay, but like when he died, it really got my attention. And like I saw my mother mourn, I saw my family mourn his death. And for me, it like with him and with me, and because I knew him very very like intimately and closely, I said to myself, well, this isn't necessarily the best thing because I never get to see my uncle again, but at least I know that death is the end of pain. And he's not in pain anymore. So that was the first experience. Somebody that left a mark on me where I was um, moved by what happened and how he like left this earth, and everything he left us with, and his death wasn't maybe the worst thing in his case. Okay? Not that I was happy that he died, but like it was because I knew him so personally and so intimately, I knew that he was no longer in pain. So, anyways, that's the first person. The second person, my wonderful grandmother, my dad's side of the family, my dad's mom. You've never met anybody like this woman in your life, okay? I'll just describe her to you. She was 100% Italian. Grew up in Brooklyn, New York. And I was always very close to her. I would even say that in some cases I was the apple of her eye. She really loved me and doted on me. Like, really. Like, I was really a spoiled kid. I'm still spoiled. My family still spoils me. It's true. So, yeah, that's another thing your generation doesn't know, you young kids. Kids under 18, like, you don't know the art of storytelling like I'm doing here right now. Like when I was a kid, that's all we had. Cell phones were just becoming something. Like you could just text. There wasn't all this like app stuff and all this other stuff going on. But it's cool. So I'm just trying to explain to you. So this woman, her presence in my life was something extraordinary, but like okay, like you always love your grandmother, like you have those cherished moments. I'm not going to give a documentary here on me and my grandmother, but let's just say that my grandmother was wearing black a lot. She just wore black a lot, like a lot. It was just always black. She's always wearing black. My grandmother's name was Alice, so she had a chain, well, a female chain. She would a silver chain with an A, diamond A, for Alice. And I can't give you like a biography, like a backstory on my grandmother, but she was always expressing her emotions to me in like an intimate way. And Like I'll never. I'm telling you, if you ever met my grandmother, you'll never forget her. But um, she would always be expressing her emotions. She never held back. So some of the emotions were negative emotions, but she wanted to share this her feelings with me always, and she would, you know, always explain why she felt a certain way, and she's wearing black, and I'm absorbing. She's wearing a lot of black, from the time I'm a toddler to the time she passed in my early 20s. But like I didn't realize it until after the fact that like I think I think my grandmother's Gothic, right? Either that or she was mourning my grandfather's my grandfather passed away when I was born. I knew him about 6 months. I never really asked why she was always wearing black, but it always stuck in my mind, and the bond that I have with her, like when you love somebody, um, you don't really consider things like that until they're gone. So, I don't necessarily wear black a lot just because um, my grandmother and my uncle passed away. I felt the same thing when my grandmother passed away, that maybe she's not in pain anymore. So, this is very deep. So, to connect this to the modeling, and then I got to get ready for the next segment because we have to get into the like the art of modeling, like, and the tips and tricks and stuff. Having these two people that I loved so dearly pass in my life, and like the mark they left on me and everything. Um, I remember when I first got my camera, my first digital camera, and digital cameras were big back then. I mean, they were expensive. But I bought myself one when I was about 16. Maybe I was younger. Maybe I was like 14. Yeah, I was probably like 14, yeah. And I started putting my pictures on social media when I was about 14 years old, 15 maybe. And I started getting feedback and, talking to girls and women and, you know, making girlfriends and stuff and, sending messages, like, we could still send messages. It just wasn't as, like, prominent as it is today, like, so quick and easy and, like, right in your face. But, yeah, like, and I remember when I first started, because I remember having that first camera, you know, and this is part of my name, okay? Because when I sat down with Dark South, I wanted to have an acronym as a name. An acronym meaning, like, okay, something that means something. So I figured, like, MAD, but check this out. Because my name is Mark Anthony Dark 66. When I first started modeling, like, you're like a teenager, you have like anger, like you come in contact with like anger for like the first time, like, cuz you're not like, you're not like a baby anymore, and you start kind of like rebelling against your parents' ideas and stuff like that. It's very normal for kids to go through that. But I remember like being angry and kind of like taking pictures of my anger and just like letting it go in front of the camera. And I remember that's how I started getting people's attention as a teenager. And I didn't know I could ever be a pro model one day. I was just doing it because it was it it was all in front of us. It was like we had, I guess at that time, like Facebook was just coming out, but we had like MySpace and stuff like that. But you could express yourself freely like that, and like nobody really cared to the point where it was like, it was unaccepted because like you had that platform to do that, but it wasn't set up as it is today. Like it was very different. And again, you still, like, if you wanted to be a model, you still had to go into the city and stuff like that. But I remember like getting in touch with myself taking pictures and being angry and expressing it in front of the camera and it looking kind of different and kind of cool. And I remember, oh wow, I was really mad there. Wow, okay. Mad, Mark Anthony Dark 66. And that's kind of how it was born, but like years later when I became pro, but I never forgot that. And it was tied to my emotions as a young man. And I want you to pay real close attention to what I'm about to say. I'm not saying get mad and stand in front of a camera. I'm saying learn how to channel it first and make it into something that's appealing and then take your pictures. Because for me, it's kind of in my blood. My mom, again, is a pro model, was a pro model. But learning how to take your emotions and transform it into something that's worth seeing, that's modeling 101. Get in touch with those emotions, how you're going to deliver them, and you'll be on the road to great modeling photos. I'll see you in the next segment. This is Dark South Limited. My name is Mark Anthony Dark 66. See you soon. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are back in the second segment here of the modeling movie. And I am your host, the Gothic version of Mr. Rogers. My name is Mark Anthony Dark 66. Name of my company is Dark South Limited. Please like, subscribe, drop a comment, show some love for your boy. Alright, now I'm going to start out on this. I don't want to seem like I'm being sarcastic. I'm being 100% truthful, real, upfront. And this is something that all models should really, really take into consideration. I literally started this modeling series, this movie series, 2 years ago. I remember when I started this, I literally had the worst, I'm not even kidding, like the worst acne outbreak of my life. That and eczema on my face, which I mean, I have cream here on my face, like you could see, like, it's just, we have to always promote, like, men putting moisturizers on their face, cream on their face, because, like, it's really not going to help you at all if you don't. I don't want to get off topic. Okay, so, like, when I started this modeling movie series 2 years ago, I'm not even kidding, I didn't even have an official skin routine. Like, I really did not. I literally would wash my face whenever I had like an acne breakout, which was basically like every day, and it really got to the point where I was using stuff that like wasn't working externally, so I had to get like I'm not gonna go into exactly what I got, but I had to get like internal because it was like it was weird because it was like hormonal, but it was also like my job that I had at that time was very like dirty, so I had like dirt on my face every day. It was really bad. The point that I'm trying to make is I just now figured out what my regimen is going to be daily. And I tried for like 2 years and like nothing worked and like everything failed and my skin's finally where I want it to be because I like it. I noticed my crease is almost gone on my forehead, which I'm really happy about. That's other stuff, but the point that I'm trying to make with this is like you have to have a routine with your face and your hair, like daily, every day, to always look like tip top, best shape. Like I'm ready to take on the world, and I also did apologetics. Like this is called modeling apologetics. My eyebrows are atrocious. I just found something with my eyebrows that I could use for a routine because I had the eczema around my eyebrows. My skin was drying out, so my eyebrows were getting really bushy. I didn't really broadcast this. I have a close friend of mine who mentioned it, and I had to explain to him that like I had like bad eczema and I wasn't into like shaving my eyebrows like every single day. But now that I have a daily routine, and really it's really simple. I'm just using a mild cleanser on my face, like washing my face, and then a mild moisturizer afterwards. But I finally found like the right name brand because like nothing was working. Like I mean, you gotta understand. I had this day job, and I'm a day job guy. So like, I had this like debris like flying onto my face. Like, I'm in a work environment, so I'm not gonna put like antibacterial soap on my face. So I would have to use like face wipes, and the face wipes just weren't agreeing. And my skin's extra sensitive anyway, so it was breaking out anyway, and like when I got the internal stuff, my skin really settled down. But then like I still couldn't find something externally, but I finally found something that I could use like twice a day consistently, and it was a long road, and I'm showing you the sense of urgency in my voice purposely because, like, if you think you're going to be a model and not be able to take care of yourself, like, it's not realistic. Like, you have to always look amazing. And if I didn't have this in my blood, like, my portfolio would have failed. That's the point I'm trying to make to you guys. And thank you for watching me, keeping the faith, being my fan. Um, all of the above because like I was really worried there for a while and like we were going to start the portfolio and I was like putting my best foot forward and I was like, I got to really like turn this on for my fellow dark south people here and like, really make this work. Like I was scared. I was really scared I was going to fail because there was no coming back from that. My first portfolio failed, but that was years ago. So, what I just said, finding a daily routine to make your skin, your face, your hair glow is so important. And you see, it took me 2 years, okay, to really find the right one where, like, my skin on my forehead's looking nice. I'm not, covered in acne, et cetera, et cetera. But, my face and my eyebrows for 2 years were looking horrible. I mean, you could see them in some of the videos. And again, in the videos, I do that on purpose because I want you to see my flaws. I want you to see I'm a human being. But get that routine down, especially for your face. Your face is like gold in this industry. So get that routine down first and foremost. Like, in the world of modeling, put that as like number one, if not number two. you know, in the list of things to do as a model, and the level of importance. Getting that routine down. Because I remember when I was a teenager. Of course, I had acne. And it was different because like I had like I had like a dermatologist at the time who was like, gave me like this super powerful stuff. I'm at this different point in my life where I gotta like treat it differently. I'm not 14 anymore. Now, for you youngins, you know, um, you're on like, if your parents have health insurance, you're on your parents' health insurance, like, stuff like that. I'm not saying the monetary aspect of it. I'm saying to find something that really agrees with your body, agrees with your skin, makes you glow, makes you stand out in front of the camera. Your face is always number one. And I struggled for 2 years. America loves a struggle story, so I had to put that out there. But I finally found the right regiment for me, and Dark South Limited is also accepting endorsements. So, but my struggle could be seen on camera. It could be seen in some of my photographs. I look really, really ugly. But I don't want to be hard on myself. Like, my parents didn't make an ugly baby or anything. I'm not saying that, but I finally found the right regiment, and I'm so happy and confident moving forward. And that's my number one nugget piece of advice to start off. Let's give you about 3 more tips and tricks here. Okay, the next tip and trick is you need to commercialize yourself. There's no excuses on social media today. With the rapid advancement of social media, like, if you cannot make yourself a solid portfolio in somewhere between the time frame of 6 months to a year, just forget about it. Just walk out the door. It's not worth it. You don't know what you're doing. You can't take good pictures. Let's just end that there. Study one word at a time and become that word. Okay, like, let's take the word amazing, right? If you like focus on that word and focus on the definition of it, and you become that like in your photo, that's something that you kind of want to do as a model, because you want to look amazing. You want to look like a supernatural being. Believe it or not, I've seen models do that, and I've seen people become that, and like stuff like that. Like, try it out. It could work. Here's another tidbit, another great nugget. Crazy is good, freaky is good. Okay, that means, okay, in the past couple movies ago, we were talking about like being in high school, and like fitting in, I guess. You don't really want that. You really want to stand out, even if people are making fun of you, no matter where you are modeling at that point in your life, because it's like, a little bit of crazy is good. Like, that's what is entertaining, not somebody who fits in with everybody. Freaky is kind of good because it's like, oh wow, I've never seen this before. Like, this is really freakish. You know, this has my attention. You know what I mean? Like everything that you thought in like high school fashion, even though we all go through it, and it could be a little embarrassing when you're, like in the modeling, now you've went from high school fashion to now you're talking to adult fashion. So like there's a huge difference there. Like, erase your thoughts of high school fashion, except for the trends that maybe have survived through the years. Like think about that. You know what I mean? And I mean, I was always popular in high school just by like being myself and trying to be friends with everybody. I'm not saying I was friends with everybody, but like trying to be friends with everybody. And like what you're wearing comes like way way later. So focus on these things. I'm going to cement it one more time. Your daily routine to make your face glow is like the number one, if not the number one, the number two thing you can do for yourself as a model. Get and find that routine and don't stop until you get it. It took me 2 years. My skin was like the worst it ever looked in my life. It was hard. It really was. It was a really big struggle, but those types of challenges can come back when you're stressed out, when you're going through a hormonal change, when you become a celebrity, when you least expect it. So you get that regiment down and you'll be able to fight through all that and come out on top. My name is Mark Anthony Dark 66. I am the Gothic version of Mr. Rogers. Thank you for watching my movie. We'll be back at you hopefully sometime soon. I gotta check with Dark South to see what we're doing next. Stay tuned. See you later.